Hello, and welcome to the Gears of War Emergence fan project. This video is part of the character creation video set. This section is covering the weapons and slot sheet, the purpose behind this sheet and its format, alongside an overview on how to utilize this sheet correctly. Like the previous video that covered the leveling sheet, this video will be more free-flowing rather than me reading directly from the handbook. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the sheet. So, straight into the sheet here. Try not to get overwhelmed. The sheet is fairly simple when broken down. Across the top, with the black background, is the titles for each column, with an example. Each archetype has its own section, broken up by these black column bars. So as you can see here at the top, the basic section is broken up here, and the advanced section is broken up down here. So, for simplicity's sake, to help with understanding, we're going to go through with a walkthrough. The example for this walkthrough is going to be the Lancer Mark 1, which is the topmost weapon here, which is a cog weapon. All the weapons follow the same structure in terms of layout in this sheet. For simplicity's sake, reading the wrong paragraph there. So working from right to left, working from left to right, there we go, got there in the end. We have the classification for the weapon. In the Lancer's case, it's basic, meaning the weapon is part of the basic archetype. Next is the weapon name, which is this category here, Lancer Mark 1. Then the number of shots in a burst, which is 6 in this case. This is the number of shots fired when the character spends their action to shoot. Armor piercing value is the AP value for each shot that is fired. It's the dice rolled for each one. The damage value, which is the next column, is the damage value for each for the dice that are rolled for each shot that wounds. So say for example 3 shots went through the armor, you would have rolled 3d6. The next column here is the effective range. This is the range that the weapon is able to be fired accurately, without penalty. So, in the Lancer's case, it's 50 feet. The next column is the number of effective bursts. This is the number of effective bursts within a magazine. In the Lancer's case, it's 3. So, 6, 12, 18. It can fire 18 effective bursts. Moving on to the next column, shots in a magazine. There's 20 shots in the magazine for the Lancer Mark 1. So there's 2 rounds left over after firing 3 bursts. This is just a quirk of the Lancer Mark 1. Now, continuing on, there's a weapon effect here. Not all weapons have this, but weapon effect is an effect produced when the weapon is fired. So this can be against a target, it could be a special condition. So in the Lancer's case, when it hits an enemy, for this weapon, it can negate 1 enemy AR. So a target has 4 armor reduction, it goes down to 3 when hit by this weapon. But if shot by another weapon, it would still be the base value. So next column is reload cost. This is how much it costs to reload the weapon. In this case, it's 1 action. So, scrolling to the right here, there are 2 more columns. As a reiteration of the classification, but the 2 columns I'm referring to is special characteristics and rapid reload characteristics. So, special characteristics is something unique to that weapon. So for Lancer Mark 1, it's an underbarrel bayonet. Not all weapons have these, but some do. Next is the rapid reload characteristic. Now this is activated when a weapon achieves, when a character successfully achieves an active reload. In the Lancer Mark 1's case here, you gain +2 to damage rolls. So you would apply 2 to the damage value, so it would be d6 +2 for each dice. Now, that covers the main bulk of a weapon. Relatively simple, you're just working from left to right. Now, there is more. If we come further to the right here, these are visuals and the magazine slot size and weapon slot size. Now, magazine slot size is the size of a standard magazine. Weapon slot size is the size of the weapon in terms of slots. Slots is an inventory space in either a pouch, backpack, whatever can store stuff. Then you have a visual aid for the slot size. So if you're putting this weapon into storage, that's how many bars you would color in. Now, with those columns explained, it should now be possible to navigate any weapon page. It's relatively broken up by the blank space, so you shouldn't get things confused, hopefully, if I've done this correctly. Now, at the bottom of the screen here, you can see that there's different pages, and there's quite a lot of them on this sheet. Now, you will see COG, that's for the COG faction, UIR, which is this page, is for the UIR faction, Locust is for the Locust faction. Now, these all work the same across the board, even for the vehicle weapons, they just have a lot bigger, because a 120mm cannon is going to hit a lot harder than a snub pistol, obviously. So, moving on to the next page that would require a walkthrough is the grenades. Now, a lot more clutter on this page, but once again, working from left to right, you can figure it out. So, due to the grenade's nature, in this case, there's quite a lot that can go on with a grenade. So, left to right, we have the grenade type. So, there's two types of grenades. There's offensive grenades and there's support grenades. And within those, within the offensive type, so we have two types of grenades, offensive and support. And you will see under there the archetype of which the grenade is. Now, unless you're a grenadier, you would be using your weapon archetype proficiency of basic when you wanted to use a bolo grenade. And if you were throwing an ink grenade, you would use the advanced weapon proficiency archetype. Yeah, sorry, jumbling up my notes here. So, continuing on, we have grenades. This is the name of the grenade. With the next column being a throwable distance. This is the distance that you can effectively throw the grenade. Now, this is here primarily, obviously 40 feet is the max range for a bolo grenade, unless you have anything that can raise it by a feet. This is here for the next column, throwing difficulty. Instead of, say for example, throwing a grenade at a target and going off the RAC, you're going off how far you're throwing the grenade, by how difficult it is. So, throwing at 10 feet, it's only a difficulty of 8. Whereas if you're throwing at 40 feet, it's a difficulty of 60. Right. The next column is the initial effect. So as soon as that grenade goes off, what happens? Well, in this case, it explodes. Okay. How big is the explosion? Okay then. So the next column is the effect diameter. So from the center point, you can measure from the center point of the explosion how big the explosion is. Now, within 10 feet means if you are within 10 feet. So if you're 10.1, you're outside that. And damage dealt here in this category is referring to the prior effect. Not the next one, the prior. So this damage here will be for this effect. I know this may seem a little bit obvious for some people, but I'm just making this very clear as much as I can. So you can then come across and say, oh well, the guy was within 12 feet of the grenade, not 10. So you come over and you say, oh, this grenade has a wider explosion radius that's slightly less deadly, but it's still an explosion. So within 15 feet of this grenade going off, damage dealt, which is referring to effect diameter 2, would be d12 plus 2. So the grenade's gone off. What happens after the grenade's gone off? This will be the after effect. Now, not all grenades have these, but in the bolo grenade's case, the armor, the AR, armor reduction, of those caught within the blast radius is reduced by 1, damaging the armor via the grenade. Now, these after effects may have a range, which would be the after effect diameter, and that is 5 feet for this. So if you're within 5 feet, sorry, yeah, just it would be within 5 feet, sorry, of the initial explosion, you would be caught by the after effect, so your armor will be shredded. This in itself doesn't deal any damage, so this is left as NA. This would be damage dealt if the after effect did any damage. Coming along, you can see what's the duration of this after effect. Oh, it's instant as soon as the grenade goes off. So that's what that category would be. Can it be planted? Now, guess what? You can place your grenades on walls, floors, even other people, or potentially monstrous beings, and it would attach them. Now, if a grenade can be planted, it would be yes or no. Simply yes or no. The next column is can scatter. This is referring to if the grenade can go off target. Say, for example, the grenade might have a guidance system. Not that I've seen, but it could. So you will then see, yes, the grenade can scatter. Okay, so that means it can go off target. Next, then you would refer to the scatter range column to the right here, which is the scatter table for that particular grenade. So if it scatters, you would roll d4, and the result is how much it scatters by. Then you would go to the directional table. It's not listed on here because it doesn't change. That primarily covers the grenades. The keen observers among you may have noticed that the support grenades are different in terms of their columns. This is because support grenades don't deal any damage, so they don't explode, blowing you to bits. They, for example, with the smoke grenade, create a smoke screen. So they've had their clutter cut out as to not obscure what they actually are. So just to go through a walkthrough, once again, just to make sure we get everything across the board here with these grenades. You want to use a bolo grenade. You'll be using the basic archetype. How far are you throwing it? I'm throwing it 30 feet. I would need to make a throwing difficulty of 14. When the grenade lands, it would explode. Those within 10 feet of it exploding will be caught by a d20 plus 8 worth of damage, plus any effects or rulings that would manage that. If they're outside of that, but still within 15 feet, effect diameter 2 will kick in, you'll take d12 plus 2. But if the grenade landed right at your feet within 5 feet, you would have an after effect of the grenade blowing up. So your grenade blows up, shreds 1 AR. This doesn't deal any damage, but it's instant. I could potentially plant the grenade and leave it as a proximity mine trap. This is universal across all grenades that can be planted, so it's within the handbook. Can the grenade scatter? Yes, it can. And there's the scatter range. Now, hopefully that gets across an understanding of how to use this, hopefully. Now, this concludes the portion regarding weapons, so if you just wanted to see that, go on. But if you want some special case stuff, there's melee and underbarrel. Now, chances are these aren't really going to come into effect, but it's there if you want it. The only difference is there's a range in which, oh no, sorry. The only real difference here is a to roll section on melee weapons. And the rest of these should be self-explanatory based upon what we covered earlier. So you have a range. This is if you're actually within shiving distance for the knife. Don't want to do that. Attack type. Are you slashing or are you stabbing the person? This can determine what the actual attack is. For example, if you're slashing someone, you're going to attack twice. If you're stabbing someone, you can only attack once, but it hits harder, but if you miss, you miss. So, when it says attack here, this is still going off the AR value. So, 1d6, you need to beat 3, you beat 3, you shave the guy. Damage, obviously that's damage. And weapon details, these are like the special effects from earlier, but they are now applied to a particular attack category. So for example, slashing, if the target has an AR4, the knife will deal 4 less damage, and this can result in dealing 0 damage. Now, that should cover this. This page should be relatively easy to understand. If I'm wrong in that, let me know. Now, fully covers all weapons and attackables. Attackables? We'll go with attackables. Now, continuing down, my little script here, we've got the items page. Now, if you just want to see the weapons and that, feel free to move on. So, items. Now you're looking like, oh, this is a bit barren. What's going on? So, this is barren. Yes, it is. Yeah, you've got the name column, you've got the use. So for example, I'm reading a bit further down. So right now the item page is quite bare, with only the vital items being located in here. But since Gears is in a near modern setting, make accurate judgments to what slot sizes would be. Because I don't want to go through here listing off the 700 components of an engine block, and it wouldn't make much sense to do so, in my opinion. There are broad categories to this, and it's listed in the handbook. So if you want to see that there, it's there. These are for specific items. So the ones we have in here are ration bars, MREs, first aid kits. The things that have uses in combat that you want to see. So, from left to right, item name, this is the name of the item. Use, this is the direct use of the item. Slots, this is how much space within a container the item takes up. You've got uses, this is how many times an item can be used before it's considered no longer able to be used, because once you've eaten that ration bar, it is being eaten. You can no longer uneat the ration bar, well you can, but you don't want to do that. You then got details. This is specifics, uses, this is specifics, anything that the item does. For example, a ration bar, you gain 350 cal worth of bar. That's a bit weird to read, but it gets a point across. You only need to worry about those if you're running GDA sections for these particular ones. Whereas if you come down to your medkit, you can see it's a lot more traditional. It can be used twice a turn, heals 5 temp HP, and then it gives some information about it. It's got bandages, it's got painkillers, it's got a tourniquet. So all the information is kind of being lumped into that little details section, so make sure to check that whenever you're going to use something. Use an item. Now, moving on, we move on to the final page I want to cover in this video. I do apologize for being scattered all over the place, but due to the nature of these sheets, it kinda is. I've got a script here, but it's to the point, I would say. So we got pouches. Now pouches are it's not just pouches. It's named pouches, but it's also any container or storage, let's say, that's carryable. Because you could carry that, you could try and carry that armadillo for storage, but it might not work. So we got a wider range here. You got your backpacks at the bottom here. You got your cases. You got your pouches. Yada yada. Working from left to right again, we got the receptacle name. We've got the type. We'll come back to this. We've got the slots. This is how much it can store. Not how much space it takes up, how much it can store. You've then got what it stores, what's its purpose, and location. Now, when you're wearing these pouches, this is the location on where they're put. So primarily pouches will be on your armor, whereas, for example, a leg holster goes on the leg. Pretty simple, a sling goes on the weapon. Now, coming back to the types, it's the intended equipment or restriction for that container. Now, there's going to be a GDA option on this in the future, because right now it's just a straight restriction. Yes, it may make sense that you could fit a small medkit within a stick magazine pouch, because it's a small item, but we'll just keep it simple for now. You can potentially run that GDA option if it's there in the future, feel free to, but right now, stick with the restrictions that are in place. Medical is for medical items, and that container stores what it stores. Universal can store anything. It can store anything that goes in there. So coming down to the bottom here, just something of note, a COG duffel bag can store a full set of armor. Any COG armor. And obviously this would apply to UIR armors as well, because they're similar. Well, that covers everything that I wanted to cover in this video. Now, the keen observers among you might also notice that there's a final page here called Weapon Improvements Machining. Now, I'll show you it here. I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to be doing its own video. But this would be the system for improving your weapon. Now, it's potentially going to change quite a bit. Not final on that system. You can use it. Feel free to provide feedback, yada yada. This concludes everything I wanted to cover in this video. I would recommend checking out the Discord if you want to see this sheet. The links are all there. There's a lot contained within this sheet, and I was very vague. Well, not vague, but I was very brief in my overview of it, and I covered it in very broad terms. So you should now be able to use this sheet, understand it, and have a look through. Hopefully. So that's everything. Have a nice day. Goodbye.